Elections are not going to disappear, but here's where we're headed. First, though, I want to say this. I've made a habit of making predictions on this site for the last 5 years. Every single one of them has come true. I told you Merrick Garland would never wrap up the Trump investigation in time. I told you Trump would win when he announced in 2022. I told you in 2023 that when Trump got elected, that we would have the military on our streets, and that he would set up camps and expand ICE for the largest deportation in American history. I told you this year that he'll never get rid of his cabinet members, at least his core cabinet members, because he's not going anywhere. He doesn't care about scandals because he's here to stay. But none of these predictions were particularly hard to make, and many of you made the same ones. But every single time I got pushback from the same Democratic Party apologists. And your solution was the same every time, fighting back through elections by supporting moderates who can win people in the middle. There are two problems with this. The first is that it never works out that way. They keep losing. And if you point to 2020, a rock could have beat Trump that year. And the second is that we won't have free and fair elections anymore to do so. Now, most of the Democratic establishment will keep their seats, and there'll be a happy, controlled opposition minority, shouting loud and doing nothing like Gavin Newsom and Jasmine Crockett. In 2020, obviously, Trump didn't want to leave. He just didn't have the infrastructure in place to stay. So it doesn't matter if the Democrats win in 2028 unless they're willing to take the office by force, which, of course, they're not. And then in 2026, nothing's going to change. They can't mathematically get two-thirds majority in the Senate, so they can't remove Trump. And even if they could, would he leave? And if they win the House, there's nothing they can do but subpoenas and hearings, which haven't worked in the past. And in fact, if they only win by a little bit, considering all the momentum they have right now, it would be a huge momentum killer. The voter suppression is going to be so bad that Democrats will never be able to win enough, no matter how many more AIPAC Dems from California you send to D.C. So the question is then, what do we do in a situation like this? As many of you know, I've tried to focus on trying to put high character individuals into positions of power, high character resistance leaders. And of course, nonviolent resistance in any form. Now, while the leaders are unfortunately few and far between, the nonviolent resistance is actually happening. But because we're in such a siloed media environment, most people aren't seeing it. And honestly, even if they did see it, Americans right now just seem too weak to do anything about it. I see very few people who want to make any sacrifices. This app skews our perspective in that regard, but talk to people in the real world. As you can tell, I'm pretty pessimistic about the situation as it stands now, as I'm sure many of you are. What's needed are leaders who can break through that media environment and are willing to sacrifice everything. And I'm just not sure if we're yet conditioned for that. And if we finally do get mad enough, authoritarianism may be here to stay and it'll be too late. In fact, it may already be. Our allies are occupied and can't help, and there are powerful leaders like Trump all over the world. I'm going to stay in the trenches trying to educate people like many of you, but something has got to change fast. Because many of you have been saying that Trump and his allies are going to go down for a decade now, and they're still here. So do something different.